Hello. What's up, guys? What's everyone doing? Good morning. What's up, Smock Fox, Lugs, Board Gamer, Dancing, Demajit? It was an interesting week. It's okay. The pain might be over. So right off the bat, could you teach us how to trade options? Um, Experience, right? Like, I mean, there's good ways to practice if you want to get better at specifically trading options. Morning, Winter. Hey, Alethea. I'm now jobless. Good job, Dayku. I thought, didn't that seems so quick? Has it already been 2 weeks? So, what are your specific issues, Angel Fire? Do you just suck at it, or is there something like specific that you want me to address? That's a good one, Winter. Yeah, if your options expire on the 20th and you're on vacation, try to remember that they expire on that date. Yeah, I agree. Do the paper trading sites software have decent options trading practice? Which one is best? I think for options, Thinkorswim paper trading is the best one. Although there's some others. Let's see if I have any links. There's TradeStation, which I think has paper trading for options. Um, there was another one. I know TradingView has it. TradingView is a good one. Go ahead, my good bean. That's the point of this, man. Don't be afraid to ask me questions. Just ask them. Afternoon, Surf Solar. What's up, Seb? The paper trading site software. Okay, so we covered that. How do you decide if they are cheap or expensive? I found several different ways Googling this. I mean, you can use an options calculator. Whoa. What's that from? Hold on, I'm very orange. Oh, okay. That was weird. Um, you can use an options calculator. You can just use the price. The price is a good indicator. It depends on length of contract, strike, what your what the play is. There's so many variables with options that it's very hard to like address anything non-specific without just tons of time, like hours and hours and hours. I'm in the UK for a start, so probably difficult to translate to CFDs. Probably. I don't know that much about how CFDs work. Let's talk Lauer progress. I'm doing good, David. I have not messaged him yet, but I will. I'll reach out to him. Again. New to writing puts or to put for 7.5 and 9. 9. Buy to close when SPRT runs again or on that merger day and keeping theta premium. Good strat or okay, so yeah, you can also make money off the IV. The only issue is you wrote a put for 9 and it's trading at 881. You might get assigned. You want to write when you're writing cash secured puts, you want to write them below the strike rate. They're a bullish play, so you're saying that the stock's not going to reach that price, and so you're willing to use cash collateral against a derivative in order to profit from this price not dropping that low. So the 750 is solid. I don't know how I feel about the $9 one. But yeah, you could buy to close them. I don't understand at what point you make money. I thought calls had to be in the money to be profitable. Until someone mentioned I'd lose all my shares if I did that. Okay, you can only lose your so Angel Fire, you can only lose your shares if you're writing like covered calls, which is totally different. Tasty Trade is decent for beginner options. Okay. I've never used that one, but probably. So yeah, you want if you're writing a covered call, the collateral for the call is 100 shares. Unless you're writing a naked covered call, which is super risky. I feel like I'm indirectly responsible for everyone getting wasted last night. You might be. And yeah, the calls, if you're writing covered calls, you do not want them to be in the money. Those are a bearish bet. When you write a covered call, you're saying that the price will not reach the strike that you have written the call at. And that's how you get 200 GME by accident. I've only gotten assigned once on GME, but it was rough. It was at like 180. Yeah, I heard about it. A Little Yachty and the Spy. Do option prices change much if the underlying surges and after pre-market? Is it possible to buy option cheaper at open than sell later for arbitrage? Sometimes you can get a fill, like a beneficial fill at open. You have to have the order placed. You generally, if you're trying to do that, you want to avoid like psychologically relevant strikes. And sometimes if there's enough arbitrage, the market maker will like reset the option chain. So you won't have like a bid ask until market opens and they set it. And if it's really volatile, that could be a few minutes after market open. So it's pretty hard to make money on arbitrage there because that's what the market maker wants to do, right? So you got stiff competition. But it's happened. I've gotten really good fills at market open before. Is the reason you buy slightly out of the money options because of price? No, it's because of expected movement. So I expect if I'm buying options, especially recently with like the plays I've been doing, I'm buying options near the low of what I expect the movement on the underlying to be. So let me pull up. So let's use an example from, let's see, Tesla. Tesla was a good one a couple weeks ago. So when I bought Tesla here, I was expecting a bounce, right? And this was down at like 700, right? I was expecting a bounce to like retest 220 up here. So I bought and my strike was at 705, right? But I expected like $15 worth of movement to the upside. I ended up with more, but that was like the expected movement, right? And so that's why I bought them out of the money, but still kind of near, right? It wasn't like I bought 730s. So like I bought them at the lower end of the expected movement because I expect the price to move past that point, right? Also, yeah, they are cheaper, so you can get more contracts than if I bought them at like exactly at like 700, right? Did you pay Dave Lauer to talk bad about TDA? No. Did you get a chance to look at my Google sheet? I think so, Board Gamer. I'm trying to remember. You sent it to me on like Thursday, right? I think I got a brief chance to like look over it real quick, but I didn't get to really go into it very much. I'm gonna try to get some stuff done today, so we'll see. For paper trading journaling, do you have any recommendations on journaling format? I mean, I used a whiteboard, and then I like at the end of every week, I would just like put everything into Excel to record it. But I guess you could write prose to think like on how you're. I don't know. I didn't really have that much internal psychological analysis of my trades. I would say I'm pretty indifferent to like making or losing money. Good afternoon, Starlight. So you have a call for 50. The current stock is 30. Let's say the stock goes to 35. To actually make a profit, you have to buy the 100 shares and then sell them? What? No, you just sell the contracts. The value of the contract would go up, right? Depending on how volatile that move to 30 is and how much value you have. There's some other factors, but say on the day, right? Like, is Epic Paint not fucking working again? Hold on. 1 second, guys. Let me fix this. It's so annoying. All right. So say on the day you buy a 35C for like a weekly, right? So 35C weekly, and the stock opens at 30, or you buy a 50. Sorry, you bought a 50. So you buy a 50 strike, 50C weekly. That day the stock opens at 30, moves to 35. Now, if you have theta decay on this option, you're going to lose money other ways. So this isn't accounting for that. But if you have a $5 move, the IV on this contract should go up, right? At which point you can sell the contract. You can sell that contract to someone else. So say you paid, like 1.15 for it and it goes up to 1.25. That's the value of your contract. So you can sell it for that value. You don't have to buy the shares and then sell them. That's not on your end. That would be exercising the option, which is different than selling the contract. The contract itself has value. Did you make money off of them? Were they 0 DTEs, Big Mac? What's that called? Sellable to make a profit. I'm extremely cautious with options until I understand them more completely. I'm a SW. What's an SW? I don't know what that means, but you should be extremely cautious with options. They're a very good way to lose your hard-earned money. And alternatively, if you know what you're doing, they're a very good way to make easy money. There's a balance there. Yeah, you can run into Tom. You can run into issues with liquidity and options. Keep lowering the price to close the option or ride it out. I mean, you generally won't run into that. It can happen, but it's very rare. And yeah, you would just keep trying to sell it. Or you could sell a market order and it'll fill when it fills. Someone will buy it. If you're running into liquidity issues, it's really, really rare because like the stock has to go up more than 100% in a day. The underlying has to have 100% increase for you to run into those kind of like liquidity issues. I was a software engineer by trade. Okay. Well, you should love options then. Most math focused people I know really like options. Do more studying though, you know. Okay, Deku. That's very intense long dancing. I definitely never did that. I guess you could though. It might help some people. No, nothing's really changed. It's just claw range. Have you taken a step back and reflect on everything that's occurred since you bought in? Has it made you more cynical or not really changed outlook? Yeah, I wouldn't say my outlook's changed that much. Actually, the more information that I get on GameStop, I'd say the more confident I am in the position. I'm definitely more confident now than when I bought back in February. Although I guess that's easy for me to say because I'm up, which is a bit of a unfair advantage that I don't think a lot of people share. I got assigned on Peloton and like negative 50,000 in my account. Jesus. Don't use margin, guys. It's rip and I'd lose the shares as a tool for more usage going forward. Well, the idea of windmill, if that's your fear, is you sell a covered call at a price where you feel like you would be okay selling the underlying at. Right? Because then you don't care if you get your shares called away. And that's kind of how the wheel works, right? Is that like if you get assigned on a cash secure put, then you write covered calls on those assigned shares at a strike you're willing to sell those shares at until such a time as the price rises and your shares sell away, and then you can go back to selling cash secure puts again. Happy Saturday, Curtis Maximus. I think I have to actually practice it to understand the mechanics here. I normally need hands-on to learn, so I guess paper trading seems... Yeah, paper trading is definitely the best way to go. What's non-covered calls? That would be like a call or a put, like a long call or a put contract. I mean, there's various iterations of those and multi-leg option strategies. But essentially, a non-covered call would be a call you're buying, not selling. I think that's what you're asking about. There's some other things you could also be referring to. But yeah, that's a contract that gives you the right to buy 100 shares of the underlying at whatever strike your contract is. Yeah, I got that. Bean. The IV was real low for a max pain of 165. Yeah, IV on GameStop super low right now. Well, Windmill also, even though it might have like a high initial capital cost, the risk is far lower. As long as you're paying attention to your position. I've never dealt with fractional shares. I don't think I've ever bought one. But yeah, if I had fractional shares, I would be looking to get rid of those as early as possible in the run up. Strong bounce versus a weak one. I understand the basics of support resistance, but what else do you personally look for when playing a bounce? Bounces are really reliant on volume. Volume or increased volatility. So you can look at things like MACD crossovers. The initial phase of a MACD crossover implies a period of increasing volume and volatility, which will then fall off as the histogram or the signal line goes back to zero. And so, like, it picks up through the initial part and then generally falls off. However, this can last a long time, and MACD is trailing, but it is a helpful indicator for looking at like bounces and stuff, because if you're entering a period, if you're moving from a period of low to high volatility, that gives, statistically better odds on a bounce. A stock that trades good volume has a better shot at a bounce. Depends on how many points of confirmation you have on that resistance or support. Is it a strong resistance? Does the stock stay there a lot, or does it, does it like this would be like a strong resistance here on Tesla here at like 708, right? Like the stock really tracks that like 700 to 710 range. BBKC and TTM squeeze are also really good for that. So head and shoulders on the daily are not the indicator they are on intraday charts. But let's take a look. SoFi. It's hard to say. This doesn't really have enough stock history. If anything, this kind of looks like a descending wedge to me. at that. But it looks like maybe it fell out of that. Because it's fallen below its previous support here. But, I mean, yeah, it's also a head and shoulders. But there's the mean for it to revert to is down here. Which is really unlikely because this is a SPAC. So SPACs are backed by cash. So it's hard for them to fall below like their initial offering price at like $10 or whatever this opened at. Hmm. Wonder if it bounces. Also, it doesn't have enough history to confirm a lot of trends, which is kind of a problem with looking at long-term TA on like more recent IPOs like this. Or SPACs or DPOs or whatever new stocks. At what point do you think there will be liquidity in options for the MOASS, like past 1,000 a share? Probably not that soon, because there's contracts all the way up to like 950 available in the option chain. I would say they will remain valuable until the peak. So you can sell all the way up. If you're just selling the contracts, you won't have any liquidity issues. Probably all the way through, right? Because if you have like a 150 strike and we're trading at, 100,000, like, this is a very good value still. The IV alone isn't going to fill that gap. Especially if the market maker or the purchaser thinks that there's more room for the stock to run. The issue with it in the peaks is that the stock is then leveled off. And that's why it would be very hard to move them at that point. Have you ever dealt with fractional shares? No. Okay, so we covered that. I've seen less cryptic tweets from you. Are we getting closer? I just don't think anybody was like getting the cryptic tweets. Board gamer. But I just tweeted one like the other day. That was a hint. You got it, Claw Range. Some thoughts about what happened on Friday. Low volume, but still a 4% gain. Feels weird. Yeah. But I mean, we had one day where we were up like 10% on 3 million volume, right? So that's because of the bid-ask spread. The price is going to move faster on less volume. I think we'll be seeing some more of that over the next few weeks. Hold on, I think I accidentally scrolled too far. Thank you, Big Mac, for running over the Greeks real quick. So $18 my first option buy was a call that expired worthless, so I'm totally fine with it. I consider it $18 educational cost before I watched all the Greeks on its way to expiry. Oh, cool. They would calculate the in the money option with, so AP, if a long wheel has $1 million and they want to move the price as much as possible, or they want the market maker to move the price as much as possible, right? They would buy in the money contracts with the highest affordable delta in order to get the market maker to hedge as much as possible. Or they buy contracts with like a delta of 1. Those are expensive though. So the calls a strike just above what I thought was possible in that 2-week period and stood ready to either lose them or buy the contract back. It's a pretty good place to be. It's good risk reduction. I feel like I don't do wheeling because to keep your risk low and make a lot of money off of it, you have to have a lot of capital. And I feel like trading is more profitable with the amount of capital that I have currently. So Sean Daniels, we went over this. TDA was brought up. Trading View, and I think someone said there's Trade Station and something else. I don't remember what the other one was. I hadn't heard of it. But if you scroll back, someone brought it up. If market begins to correct down, do you think that's game over for short hedge funds? I have to think they're offsetting their losses through gains made elsewhere in the market right now. I mean, they can offset some of the losses, but I think the size of the position's too big to offset it effectively. Because while Citadel didn't sell 408 billion in assets, they did sell 14, which is a lot. Paper trade anything as long as you get permission to trade live. Yeah. No options if you're not approved. Yeah, so not really effective for learning to paper trade, Danson. Tasty trade. There we go. That was the other one. Sean Daniels. Let's say I want spurt under 8. It's trading above 8. If there was $8 options, can I write a put at 8? So I get them for 8 if assigned, otherwise collect theta, win-win, or can I lose? Well, you collect the whole premium, not just the theta. Yeah, if you're willing, if you want to buy spurt at 8, right? Like you want to buy 100 shares at $8 a share, then you can write a cover or a cash secured put at $8. And if it doesn't drop to $8, you make the premium, right? So your risk is rewarded with the premium on that contract. And if you do get assigned, then you've bought 100 shares at the price point that you want to buy them at. Which is like something I would be looking at for like 750s on Spurt, right? Because like that's the entry, my like target entry price. This is zero DC options anonymous meeting. I feel like I'm at less risk with my small plays, unless it's something I truly want to buy big and hold, aka ignore. Yeah. I mean, also probably the ideal way to enter a long play like that. Windmill. It's a solid strategy, windmill. Build up your account. Yesterday, someone mentioned that Vanguard is limiting sales of stocks at 500,000. Otherwise, you have to call the trade desk. Do you know if this is true? Okay, so it's in their terms of service. It is based on what's going on in the market, so they can change that rule if they choose. But yeah, you probably have to call. a lot of shares sold in the peaks are going to be called in. It's going to be pretty nuts until the paper hands are out. It's going to be really hard to sell anything. So, like, expect to have to call. Make sure you have those phone numbers on hand. So September 3rd, GME won 70 C or 6. September 10th or 11. Is that nearly double the cost all theta? Or is that also because earnings fell between those dates? We'll check the IV on them. Do they have different IV? This was a 170 strike for the 10th and or for the 3rd. We actually, I still think we don't, J-Dubs, I think we still don't know when earnings are. So 170, last contract is at 6, 92%. Um, 10th. So the IV on the September 10th calls is 6% higher, right? And then also you're paying for the theta. And that's because there's more time. The IV is higher because there's more time for it to have volatile movement. Yeah, no problem, Greg. If you guys want to know more about options pricing, look up the Black-Scholes model. Does that mean that call contracts will be worth millions of dollars in the leaks once we pass 10K? I mean, their intrinsic value will be $1 million at 10K. Well, $1 million minus the strike. How long would you say we hang out at the peak? Uh, could be a while. At least a couple days, I think. Hard to say though. But yeah, I would say 2 days or longer. It depends on how quickly people are willing to sell during that like negotiation phase, right? Do you think the hurricane about to hit the Northeast would have an impact on certain stocks? Perhaps another boost to HD. I think HD's bouncing back. It looks like it bounced off that low trend, and it's moving back up to test the support at 333, or the resistance. Is that? Yeah. Why do I feel like that's off? There. I don't know what that was for, but so it had a little bit of resistance here at 325, and then the next psychological resistance is going to be up here at 330. If it breaks through 330, I would expect another test at 335. Satoshi Nakamoto, can you tell us why the HD price tanked at pre-market during positive earnings and lows went up? They had some bad news, I expect, publicized more openly by short interests on the stock, about firing employees for participation in BLM. They had a labor dispute filed against them in some district. I'm not sure what it was, but that news hit kind of at the same time that the market tanked last week. And so the combination of those two factors were a pretty big hit on Home Depot. But I expect it'll bounce and come back up to test that previous resistance. Are short hedge funds still spending as much as they were in previous weeks to keep the price suppressed? It's hard to say because it's more split than it used to be, right? It used to be that they were suppressing the price with shares, which is much cheaper than suppressing it with options, but now our volume is lower. So they need to do less suppression to keep the price static. Um, but the suppression they're doing is more expensive. So without like an exact figure, there's really no way to tell if it's cheaper now or more expensive now. But I'd say it's about at an equilibrium. I would say it's just as expensive now as it was previously. I know how you feel about AMC and agree. I'd like to sell it all and buying more GME while it's in the 150s. I'm up 220%. Any thoughts AMC could go above 34 while GME is still under 200? Tough. AMC may still carry short interest. I don't know how much. Um, I don't know how much range it would have if it went up again. Um, there's no good research done on AMC, unfortunately. But AMC and GME have diverged in that sense. A significant, in the last run up on AMC, I think a significant portion of the short interest on it was closed out. So, will it run again? Probably, but it will also probably run at the same time as GameStop. So, GameStop on its way to 200, AMC could run to, 45, 50. But, they're going to reach those price points at similar times, most likely. That's a carefully controlled thing. Believe it or not. So it's tough. You can sell now and buy into GameStop. That's probably the safer bet because if AMC is in fact cleared of its short interest, it may not run very hard at all. Like you may get like $10 worth of FOMO from retail, but I would say most of them that are still in on that stock are pretty tapped out. Although Wall Street Bets does like to buy options on it, so you could get a gamma ramp. Is cash secure put basically a limit buy for 100 shares? Sort of. You don't always get assigned, which would be different than a limit buy. Sometimes the price can slip through and you don't get assigned. I've had it happen. If it slips through enough, you'll definitely get assigned, but margin calls and liquidation begins. What sort of volume will we be seeing? Significantly more than what was trading previous to that. It's hard to say because it will depend on our liquidity at the time, right? Smox Fox, but I would say orders of magnitude more volume than previously traded throughout that day or that week. And that volume will increase. So Wall Street Journal article circulating Reddit from a couple hours ago saying Citadel is pulling 500 million of their money out of Melvin. Interesting. Is Melvin managing assets for them? That might be something totally unrelated. Spectre Bravo. Real strategy is to get triple income. Well, yeah, you don't want to be assigned, but it happens. Where do I find more info on VWAP and the peaks? VWAP will be pretty far behind, but falling below the average traded price is a pretty significant indicator when you're trading a short squeeze. That means that more volume is being traded at or below the average price for the day, which indicates a downtrend. Looking for support resistance for day trades. Are levels established weeks, months ago relevant? Yes. Strong support with many touches, but none in the past 2 weeks. Is it still useful? It can be if you're headed towards it or you expect it to act. If you expect it to act as support or resistance in the near future, yeah, then it remains relevant. Support and resistance levels show areas where buy and sell side have reached a level of neutrality. And then, based on directional movement, momentum, sentiment, uh, it will either go down or up from that point. But yeah, it's still relevant, even if it hasn't been frequently seen in the last couple of weeks. unless you're trying to play like cyclical movements. It's a methodology for swing trading. I'm not a big fan of it because those can break down at any time. You can look up more about it, but it's just cyclical trading. It's more prevalent in other markets like futures. You think SPRT is still a good play? It might be, but I'm not super bullish on it anymore. Too much interest is picking up on it, which means too many paper hands, which means, you know, weaker resistance tests. It's looking, I mean, although it still has that potential for a short squeeze, if I see that coming, like I can just jump in on it, right? I have no desire to tie up a lot of money over there anymore. What's up, Johnny Diamond Hands? Stock and crypto simulator app. Interesting. I don't know, just marketing, right? They just put their logo up on things that drive around in LA. It's probably effective. Probably gets like users, which is like if they're an app, that's all they care about. Just see if Fidelity has. Yeah, Fidelity has the option to sell to exercise. I'm actually not sure what other brokerages do that. I think WeBull does it, but I'm not. I'm not 100% certain. And when I've gotten in touch with customer support at WeBull about it, they've been kind of vague in how their auto exercise function works. But I pretty much use Webull for trading, so I don't generally care about exercising options on it. Thoughts on which broker you trust more during MOASS, Fidelity, Vanguard, any others not mentioned? Schwab will be solid. Vanguard may not go down out of all of them. Fidelity will probably experience issues because so many GME holders are on Fidelity, but Fidelity's solid. They'll get your orders filled, you know. Maybe not in the most timely manner, but in a pretty timely manner. ATP's pretty resilient to high volatility. IBKR, it's hard to say. They might be good. Generally, their order execution's solid, and they don't experience too many crashes. I'm sure Webull and Robinhood will be a complete shit show. Robinhood more so. E-Trade, I don't really know. TDA is probably going to be fine. They're under Schwab, so that's probably about it that I can think of off the top of my head. I don't know about eToro. I think they're Europe. I should have sold my AMC at 75. I feel like I told everyone to do that, but people didn't. I mean, it's still fucking up, right? It's like profits are profits. And when it, to be honest, like when it went from, you know, $9 to $70, like I'm sure people holding it were feeling very justified in its potential. Sorry, got in late. Have you talked about Cat today? No. Cat's weird. I'm down like $6,000 on Cat right now. But I have time, so I'm not super concerned, but I may be doing some rolling and shifting of my position there. If I wasn't streaming, I probably would have noticed the drop a little earlier and bought puts to cover my position. But I didn't. How much attention do I pay to max pan? Not that much. Like, I note it, but I generally don't hold options into Friday when max pan is most relevant. Goya. But it is important. It's very important if you're looking at 0 DTE calls or 1 DTE. Because you kind of want to know which side of the market maker you're on, which works with all stocks except GameStop, right? Because, our market maker is a big fraud. But for other things, there's usually no issues with assuming a move towards max pain. Win violence? Soon enough, board gamer. Okay, I'm not Satoshi Nakamoto. Which one do you use or recommend? Currently, Finviz. It's customizable enough that, like, if you're doing a scan, you're probably one of very few people doing that same scan. Algorithmic scanners are the best, but you generally have to have one paid for. Like, you have to pay someone to make it for you who knows what they're doing. And then you also have to buy the rights for it, so it can get pretty fucking pricey. Like, a good one can be like 100, 300 to like 300 grand. And you probably have to get a new one every 5 years or so based on market conditions. Or you have to, work out some agreement with the original designer to continuously update for you. And it's a big time sink too, because you have to like work hand in hand with them with bug fixes and issues that arise and tweaking it. But yeah, Finviz is solid. Don't use any automatic ones that have a large subscriber base, which isn't always the easiest information to find out. But sometimes if they have like a free trial, you can test it and you can, kind of just watch the calls it predicts. Like something like Tiblio would be fucking terrible, right? Because so many people use it. Thanks for educating us. It's not taken for granted. Thank you, Goyo. I appreciate that, man. Follow up on my cyclical trading approach. My investing background was almost exclusively industrials. Okay. Yeah, so it does work well with things that rise and fall seasonally. It's not really an area that I trade frequently, like oil, gas, steel, wood. I don't really trade any of those things. Metals, mining. There's guys that do. There's guys that make a lot of money doing that, but that's not really my focus. I would say I probably focus more on like S&P 500 stocks. Highly liquid, popular assets. But yeah, I mean, it's not a strategy that doesn't work. It's just not my favorite strategy, right? Because I trade like momentum and breakout, and that strategy is more like kind of akin to like playing bio stocks, right? And that you have multiple positions that you try to buy in low at and let them run up. And that's more of like that's a more standard investing tactic. That's like what a hedge fund would generally do. But asymmetric upside is asymmetric upside. Yes, Curtis, I do. I do think that the price action is now, we've bounced essentially. Not the strongest bounce. Our volume's been fucking terrible, but for the amount of volume we've had, a pretty strong bounce. Thanks, Triple OG. Holy moly, been using E-Trade for a while. Just activated the paper trading account and can PT stack and options. I'm in business. Oh, awesome. I didn't know E-Trade had that. Cool. There you go, man. Summer's usually a slump. Yeah, it usually picks up moving into quad witching, the first quad witching of the fall. As all the derivatives start to expire for that quarter, you'll see the volume start to pick up. Okay, so it is directly connected to GameStop. Interesting, Spectre. I wonder if Melvin was able to raise capital elsewhere. What about JP Morgan Brokerage? Probably solid. I mean, most bank brokerages have shitty trade execution, but they're they won't necessarily go down during a short squeeze. Whereas like dedicated brokers are more at risk for that. I called Fidelity about sell to exercise options, and both times they said I can't. Can you please explain better how to instruct this with Fidelity? Your options have to be in the money for you to do that. Like deep in the money. The value of the contract has to exceed the value of the underlying shares significantly. Max. So it could have been the contracts that you were calling about. Go into that more. Do you not have the appropriate level of options permissions? Like, are you like level 2 options, or I've never used the scanner on WeBull. I think it just scans by market cap, and then you can sort by there. Let's see. How does this work? Oh, you can... This actually doesn't seem that bad. Turnover rate. And, ooh. That's fun. Not terrible, actually. I wonder if when this is live, if it live updates, that's really useful. I'll explore that more. I've never really checked it out before. Kaiser says I don't trade industrials, says the guy who's hostile takeover. His CX is chugging right along. I haven't gotten a CX share in months. At least weeks. What if we sign something holding you not liable for anything? We could consider an after-hours stream during MOASS? No. There'll be nothing for us to talk about. Because I won't talk about GameStop. So it's pointless. with increased margin requirements starting September, and I think it was the Fed saying there'll be more margin calls in September. Are you bullish for September? Or are you wait and see? Oh, I'm bullish as fuck. Things are shaping up nicely. I'll say that much. YouTube just gave me $100,000 in paper trading money. How can I send that to my credit union? Have you thought about offering a paid training session, setting up a scanner? No. Not something I'm interested in doing. And not something you guys would probably want to pay for, as that's very expensive and probably better done by people who know the like the scanning platform, not so much by a trader. Because like I have my scanner settings, right? But those are like, they're mine. They're what make me money, and you don't share those because they are very valuable. And those are, you know, developed over years of tweaking and fine tuning, and like I wouldn't be able to set you up a scanner that was worthwhile that you could have just set up yourself, without all that extra effort put in to make it effective. And as Fidelity, they said this non-execution type that they have. Fucking seriously? They've always had sell to exercise. Did they remove it? Well, that's multiple people reporting it. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into this because they've, as far as I knew, they've always had it in the past. What's up, Agent Evan Scarn? All right, I'll see you later, Kitty Pickle. Just so you guys know, the VOD will be up soon. What do you think about Baba? Continue with buying puts? Jesus. Yeah. God, when this fucking bounces, it's gonna bounce so hard. Wonder how low it can get. It's kind of out of resistance now. The next one, though, is at like 140. I mean, you have your psychological resistance at 150. Has it bounced off 150 in the past? Back here, but not really in a very strong fashion. I guess there's a chance for a bounce at 150, but really not a lot of. It already slipped that 160 support that it's previously had. Yeah, it's not looking fucking good at all. Initiate an exercise and sell to cover a transaction. Yeah. Level 2 options on Fidelity require a margin. I think level 3 does. Yeah, Acer, but that should just be the... Hmm. Asking someone to build you a scanner is like asking someone to build you a shopping cart in the 2000s. Sure, it can happen. You're not going to build Amazon. I used this example once with a friend of mine that I taught trading to. Think of your scanner as like your lightsaber. And I hate this example, but it's true, right? Like part of your mastery of the trading arts is learning how to build your scanner. So you take the things you learn in your experience and you use those to flesh your scanners out. Oh no, I'm not going anywhere near fucking Baba. The potential upside swing on this fucking stock is disturbing. Yeah, screener, scanner, same thing. Just saying, Fidelity still has that text up for exercising, so assuming you can still do that. Yeah, you should be able to. How's the weekly DD going? I haven't started it yet. I don't know. I'll look it up later and I'll write something up over on the Discord. Or maybe I'll call over at Fidelity and see what's going on with that. How's the weekly DD going? Nothing. Yeah. Any more questions, guys? I've run out of questions. Come on, you got more than that. Sir, writing my own scanner, currently making it search for reversal day candles. Anything else you might suggest to me? Thanks. I don't know how to program one. So from the programming side, I don't really have anything for you. I would look for it to learn to place resistances and signal approaches of those resistances. So when the stock price approaches a resistance or support. So that's a little harder, I think, to do from what I've heard, but those are generally good signals. How's NVIDIA look? Well, it's either going to break its all-time high or it's not, and it's going to come back down under 200. See, there'll be a lot of selling through the early part of the week, most likely. Unless it just smashes through this, I expect to see it kind of go like that before another test. As you know, if all these calls that were in the money were sold Friday, we'll see a lot of like gamma exposure covered to the downside on Monday, Tuesday. Are you willing to discuss the DD with Lauer? No, but I'm willing to discuss aspects of it with him. I definitely have questions for him on some deeper market mechanics that I'm a little unsure of. And my research has led me to a dead end. So, on that front specifically, which is his area of expertise. So, although I'm actually not sure what his academic background is in. I just held my 210s. I'm not sure if I keep them going. What's your expiration on them? Do you anticipate you will actively trade post-MOASS, or will you call it and sail into the sunset? Yeah, I'm not going to actively trade post-MOASS, probably. Or at least not in the same way. And that will depend on how well I exit. What will be the first game you'll host with the Pigeon Whales? I don't know. What volume price action will make you end the stream? The implication of forced liquidation. When the market starts tanking and the ask side of the order book disappears. Oh, I'm super hyped for September. What's your dream MOASS classic car? I've always wanted like the Shelby Mustang. They're hard to get though, and they're like 300 grand. One more peak trading wisdom other than obviously multiple exits. Stay calm. And that's probably the most important thing you can do is not panic. And I think that's the mistake people will make the most, is just panicking. And then when it's all said and done, remember it's all a big game. If you walk away from it, even with solid profits, and you don't walk away from it, the best you could have, don't let that affect your life going forward. Unfortunately, the nature of a position like this or an event like this is that, a lot of people will have symptoms of depression afterwards. And try to remember there's always more money to be made, even if you don't exit the best way possible. Remember to weigh your experience against that. I've embarrassed myself enough for today. You're fine, Angel Fire. I don't smoke cigars. Could we do an earlier time slot? Well, I made it later so it'd be easier for all the people on the West Coast. It used to be at noon. So I made it 30 minutes later so they would have more time to like wake up. 9:30 because they have to start it at 9:30 a.m. Yeah, the longs rolled their contracts on that first test at 160. The majority of them. Are there any common indicators you'd expect to be either useless or even worse or give false signals during MOASS? We should know to avoid. Also, any use in watching the order book? The order book could be interesting in the peaks. If there's no asks, you can place an ask and probably get your order filled. So if the order book's dead, right, like you can probably put in an order at like whatever price and hope like the algo buys it or something. That might be an interesting way to offload like a share to try to hit the peak. But other than that, I mean, the order book will give you a good idea of where to place your limits and stuff. An idea. Remember, it's not going to be accurate. RSI is pretty reliable in high volatility events. VWAP's reliable. The pennants that the exit strategy shows you how to trade are probably the most reliable thing. I know you guys all want to have indicators tell you when to buy and sell, but unfortunately, all oscillators are trailing in their nature, and so they will not time you the best exits. You could try to use RSI to like exit at the peak of oversold, and then put stop limits below oversold. But still, volatility is going to affect that. MACD is going to be useless. OBV will be pretty useless. I think you could use Bollinger Bands to trade the peaks. Those will probably be pretty reliable. I've got some 10-15 calls for GMA, but I want to know when you think might be a smart time to roll them to January. What's your strike, Monk? I think we're going to go up this week. How big of a whiteboard do you use? I don't know. It's like 4x4, like 4 by 3 feet or something like that. It's pretty big. I don't know how that'll affect GameStop, Yeti. It could just be that Melvin found outside capital somewhere else and is giving Citadel their money back, right? Or, you know, Citadel got them capital from somewhere. I don't know how relevant it is to this. Or it could just be Citadel needs their fucking money back. AMD looking good? I haven't looked at AMD today. Look like it might be breaking back to the upside. Let's see. I would say if AMD breaks to the upside of 105, it could run back up to like 110. There could be some renewed interest as like Nvidia's earnings weren't as good. They were good, but they weren't as good. So there may be some more sentiment coming this way, as forward looking. AMD's looking like a more promising company right now. Yeah, I'd be looking for a break above like 105, 106 if you really want to confirm it. If it does, then yeah, 110 to 115 is possible again, or possibly higher. Do you generally hold options contracts in margin to avoid GFE in the event of rapid entries exits? No, I don't. Most of my accounts don't have margin. I think only one of them does. I mean, options clear in T+1, so it's pretty easy to avoid a GFE. If you're in and out of a stock that much with options contracts, you've probably made a really bad play a bunch of times. I have GME 160 September 3rd and 165 September 17th. Do you think they'll print, or should I consider rolling? Currently 3% in the red. They're going to print. You're only red on IV right now. GameStop's trading at 160 already. They're going to print on literally any run up, and they'll probably print hard if we run up any significant amount. Like if we test 170 again, even they're going to print super hard. But I mean, if we test 170, I expect that we could move through it. Schwab uses the phrase cashless exercise to do a sell to exercise. Yeah, maybe it's just the terminology that we're trying to use for Fidelity that's throwing it off. Oh boy, my first subscription stream. SPRT merger is not next week. The confirmation of the merger is next week. I think the merger itself is scheduled for December 22nd. Someone correct me if I'm wrong on that date. I want a Shelby AC Cobra. I don't want one of those. The idea of it rolling over and me having my head rubbed off on the pavement like an eraser disturbs me. I learned so much. We have this stream in the Discord. Started paper trading options first. I just made some loot in Nvidia calls the other day. Ops, awesome, dude. Glad to hear it, man. So we can go to Chrome and I'll show you where we ended the week on the technical analysis. 1 second. So we ended up slightly below the estimated range here, which the bottom of this was at. Oh, you guys can't really see that, can you? Hold on. Let me full screen this. There we go. So the bottom of this expected range was 160.40, but honestly, I estimated this for a little higher volume than what we had. And I think if we'd had a little higher volume, even though we closed within that range, or close to it, I think we did close within that range, right? Hold on. Yeah, we closed at like 160, so it was about 40 cents off from the low. But I should have calculated a little less volume on this than I did. We did not, however, track the high predicted price range, right? Like, we didn't get that later in the week test of 170 or the test of 180. And we did fall a little bit out of this long-term trend, but this is only 2 million volume. So I'm not really concerned as long as we start to see a bounce. What was the rest of that question? Not sure if you answered which profits have been more profitable for you, calls or puts. The way I trade, I'm generally long side more often, but I've definitely had puts print pretty fucking hard. Statistically, being short is more profitable than being long. But that plays out in a very specific way. The reason for that is that price drops tend to be greater than price increases. Did you see Ford v Ferrari? No, I haven't. Oh, and so if we look at the bounce was really here. At 150. I guess, yeah, 150-ish. And then this I think was a second bounce here at 155. And so I expect we'll trend up at least through this week. If we get some volume behind it, we could trend up pretty quick. Do you think you'll keep a portion of your gains of dividend investing to get some passive income every year? Maybe like REITs. I don't like dividend stock very much. Unless it's a company that like offers a dividend, but I expect growth in. I would much prefer that the companies I'm invested in are using their capital to grow, because growth is far more valuable than dividends. I think dividends are a ripoff. Like, if you're invested in a company that's offering consistent dividends, it's because either A, they've existed so long that there's no more room for growth in their stock, or B, they're not really putting any of their capital forward or taking any risk to grow their business. And I would much rather be invested in a company that grows their business and expands than a company that is static in their market. Not that there aren't profits to be made there or that there are bad dividends. It's just not something I prefer to invest in. And I think most dividend investing ends up in ETFs. And I think ETFs are terrible. I hate them. They're a big scam. They're just kind of a way to fleece retail of their money through slightly better savings accounts. When trading the consolidation peaks, how long can they withhold buying before jumping the big end? Not that long. If they run out of people willing to sell at that price point, you know, they're going to have to continue jumping the bid. So, you know, if they've reached, say, 92% short interest at, you know, a price point of like 8 million, and no one else is selling, right, for enough period of a time, like a minute or two maybe at most, then they will start jumping the bid again, incrementally at first and then faster and faster in order to get some supply back in, and then they will, you know, liquidate the supply that comes in and then jump the bid again and liquidate the supply that comes in, jump the bid, so on and so forth. Then I sold the calls. I made money on outs when it fell Thursday afternoon. And puts when it fell Thursday afternoon. Nice. That's good. Yeah, write it up, write it down. I leave a lot of money on the table with that sometimes, but that's because like you're not guaranteed a strong downtrend off of a peak. So if I play a momentum breakout and it peaks, you're not guaranteed for like the price to drop, right? Like sometimes it just tests again and then smashes through. And it's like a really good way to, this like area here is a really good place to lose a lot of money. So if I've made money on the way up, until I have like a confirmed downtrend, then I'm not going to play the downside. So the write it up, write it down thing is more scalping. What's my spirit animal? Cats. I like cats. They leave me the fuck alone, and they don't require a lot of maintenance. And they don't like people, so it's more than, you know, more than is required. I think you would keep a portion of your gain. No. Okay, so I covered that. I'm West Coast, and this is perfect time. Okay, yeah, I mean, I've got to find some balance between that. Sorry, board gamer. I mean, I think ideally I'd start the stream at 10, but, or, yeah, 10 o'clock Pacific time. But, you know, if it doesn't work for your schedule, you could always DM me a question you might have. And if you're going to miss the stream, you know, DM me before and I'll answer the question on the stream. That way you can go review your question in the VOD later. Maybe that's a way we could get around that timing issue. But you can also just ask me on Discord, you know. You guys generally have access to me for questions if you need them answered. The next 2 weeks are looking good, right? Yeah, they look pretty solid. At least the next week. The week after, we'll see. It's going to be very, very much determined by this week. Felt good to practice and learn and put it to work and make real money. It does feel good to do that, Agent Evan Scarn, but don't set aside the practicing and learning just because you've made some money. I kind of see everyone doing a little bit of that, and it worries me. There's a reason I paper traded for so long. And it's not because, like, I was bored and had nothing to do. It was because, you know, once you start risking capital, you're in the game. There's no more getting around it, right? Like, you're going to just keep putting money in, and if you start risking it that early into your learning cycle, you're going to lose far more money. Like, you're going to pay for that education, and you're going to pay heavily. Tick is an oscillator, and it's not trailing. All oscillators are trailing because nothing can predict the future. Long dancing. Even if it is at real time, it is still trailing. Time for extra sleep is appreciated. Yeah, no problem, ecstasy. So it seems the final ingredient for MOASS is volume then. Yeah. I was thinking use tick to look at peaks. It'll be extremely low during liquidations. And I'll start going back to zero once the sell-off ends, right? I've never used the indicator. I'll look at it, but I'm sure it has flaws. They all do, right? But I'd have to look at it more. Dancing. Pfizer got approval for Monday regarding their vaccines, I think. Interesting. Oh, for the boosters? I don't like bio plays. I mean, it could run, it might not. It already ran a bit this week, I think. Songs? Oh, yeah. We had to do songs. Did you have a list, Carl? I could always just pick one and send it to you if you want. Just to confirm, you're allowed 2 GFEs per year and only get restricted when you hit the third one. I think so. The most I've ever gotten in a year is 1. And the first one I've ever gotten. I've only ever gotten 1 GFE. And it's on this WeBull account. I doubt I'll be listening to music during MOASS. Although I think there's some indication that like classical music with string instruments heightens awareness or something like that. It's some bullshit someone told me once. I'm not sure if it's true or not. Do you think Citadel has already made overtures to the authorities to try to forgive their position or delist GME? I mean, they're not going to delist GME because of a short position. You can't just delist legitimate companies for no fucking reason. What's the reason for not playing Baba if it could have a hard bounce up? You don't know when it's going to happen, Johnny. until there's a reason, until you have a confirmed bounce, right? There's no reason to enter it. Like, who cares about the $5 on a $100 spread? Or 150? 200? $200. It has $200 of range to the upside. So, you know, if it costs you $5 to confirm the bounce, it's worth it. What do you think of the current BTC price? 50K? It's coming up. We'll see if it holds. Not a lot of faith in the markets right now. You're seeing that represented in Bitcoin. Probably gold to some extent too. Could you explain that fleecing thing further? It's complicated. But yeah, I'd rather just buy the index than the ETF that tracks it. It's my 3-year anniversary today with my girlfriend, and I am here. Get the fuck out of here. I don't know if there's really a good intro to the market in general book. KO. I mean, you could read like basic finance books, like finance textbooks, finance, business finance 101. Yeah, no problem, KL. You have a good one, man. We have multiple trading platforms open to track the price. And what do you suggest we do to track the price action in case WeBull, Fidelity, or other brokerages go down? I mean, if the NYSE is having so much volatility that's not reporting prices correctly, you're kind of fucked until they report the prices. So you just gotta wait. Patience. Nothing you can do about it. It happened in January. I'm guarantee it'll happen again. Tick measures live. All ticks on NYSE. If there's a sell-off, it goes down. Please look at it when you have time. You will certainly understand it better than me. I will. I mean, even measuring live ticks is still a delay, right, Danson? So it's just showing you the current price action, but I'll look at it more and I'll let you know. One last thing, since you bought the new subscription in Webull yesterday, NBBO, your price points are different in the live, and your candles are different to its norms. Yeah, because my chart is now tracking more exchanges. But that's good, right? Like, I feel like that's an easy $10 to spend to give everyone, like, some better data that's watching. How come we can see you so well today? Oh, I was tweaking my camera. Is it better? I also made myself bigger. I always make myself bigger on the weekend streams because it's all about me. I'm not about GameStop. Why does the VXX price track higher than CBOE VIX? It's weighted, maybe? Is VXX weighted? Short-term future index. No, just a different price per share. I mean, they're all the same, right? They all just track the volatility futures. Oh, thank you, Long Dancing. That's already paid for itself. Well, I hope it continues to. Picture quality up a lot. Awesome. Yeah, I was watching YouTube videos last night, and then I went in OBS today, and I was tweaking shit. One of these days, this stream will look slightly professional. It is kind of weird, though, that my head is... I've got resistance lines on my head, which I don't know how to get rid of. Yeah, VWAP semi-transparent. I don't know how to fix that. Right before MOASS, yeah, right? I'm a UPS guy, so MOASS will 99% happen while I'm working with only 65 shares. If I don't make more than a few million, I won't be able to quit after. So thoughts on what I can do if I can't pay 100%? Um, fucking call in sick. Can you do that? I don't know. It's tough, right? Because you're out with the car. Um, call in sick and get back to like your distribution center. Tell them, you got food poisoning or something. Fucking make some shit up, right? You can worry about the doctor's note later. I don't know. How do people get out of work? There's got to be a way, right? Is your green screen white or green? It's green. But I also have a white chroma key turned on because of light reflection behind me. It's that transitory resistance line. It work until it hits 100K. It's one way to do it, right? Yeah, I don't understand that sentiment. Like, if you have the opportunity to make life-changing money, like, unless you're guaranteed gonna get fired, even if you're gonna guarantee to get fired from your job, you could always get another fucking job, right? But you're gonna need to pay attention. I guess wait till it hits a price point at which you can retire and then walk away and get ready to trade. I really don't know how to like answer that though. For people who are like, "Oh, I have to be at work." It's like, well, no, you need to be doing this, right? Oh, thank you, Luna. And I'm sorry to hear about your leg. When did that happen? Oh, 6.5 weeks ago. How much time do you have left before you start walking again? Yeah, thanks. Thanks, man. Is a candlestick style preference only? I have noticed that when trading, I have slightly better gains with Hink and Ashi candles than I do with standard candlesticks. And I think it's just the way they show trends works better for me. Um, but it is part preference. My backtesting has showed it to be statistically relevant preference, but that doesn't mean it would be relevant for you, right? As they are candlesticks, and it really doesn't fucking matter. Also, just they look nicer. Oh, nice, Luna. Oh, that's greater than current job. Probably. I've got a job where it's really hard to replace myself, but I may have to feign illness. Yeah, or whatever. You're part of a union. Don't you have fucking time off? Why have you ignored the requests of the Dans and the wills of Lady VWAP today? What did you fucking ask me for, Pineapple Danza? Say you got the Rona and go sit in a bathroom? Do you have a question for us? I don't have a question for you guys. Yeah, I don't really have any questions. If I had them, I'd ask. Fair enough, windmill. I mean, but what if you... Yeah. I understand your issue there. But here's a question. If you make enough, are you going to keep your job? Or are you going to do something else? What do you believe will be more violent? The price action on GME during MOASS or 100% power blast from the Dan cannon? Have you guys not been giving it 100%? That sounds like a failing on the part of the Dans. You guys need to step your fucking game up, all right? This isn't a joke. Could you fit your whole face onto the screen? My whole face is on the screen. Oh, just like a giant, just making myself a giant head? That's weird, I don't know why you want that. As long as they don't cut us off from the internets, I can make it work. Whale-toothed Dillionaire. Yeah, SPRT could repeat its pattern. Praise be to VWAP. All right, guys. I think we're going to call it a day. Unless someone has a last-minute question. All right. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate the support, guys.